Hey guys, Drifter here. Welcome to Infinite Warfare In Depth. In today's episode, we're going to be reviewing the R3K assault rifle, which gets its name from the 3-shot kill or 3-round burst that it is. This episode is not going to focus as much on the variants because I made a mistake in the previous episode about the variants. Now, I've been fortunate enough that Marvel 4 has given me a complete list of all the weapon stats in Infinite Warfare, but as I've found out the hard way, a great number of the guns in the code are mislabeled, and on top of that, when you select a variant, some variants have their base stats changed in the stat sheet, some are the base weapon but they load out with perks, and some are the base weapons but they kind of spawn in with bonus attachments, so it's become much more difficult to sort out than I originally anticipated, and I'm sorry about that error. I'm going to try not to repeat it, but we'll talk a little bit about the R3K variants near the very end of the episode. However, for now, let's talk about the R3K's damage profile. It'll deal 35 damage up close and decrease down to 30 at a distance. Not a very big drop, but that'll change it from either 3 shots to kill up close or 4 shots at a distance, and this is the kind of damage that you really want in a burst fire assault rifle because that means it can kill in one burst. The head and neck shots will deal 1.15x damage. This is special because most of the weapons in the game actually do not have neck damage multipliers. It's usually just the head, so you've got a slightly bigger head hitbox so you can pop people in the neck, and instead of 1.1 damage it's 1.15, so it'll deal a little more. This is useful at medium and long range. It doesn't help you up close, but a long range shot that typically would be 4 shots to kill, if you get one in the head you can one burst, and if you get all of them in the head you can one burst from anywhere on the map. Unfortunately, the 3-shot kill range is approximately 20 meters. This barely outclasses some machine guns, and it is a very, very small range, which means you're not going to be getting very many one-burst kills. And I'm not just making this up, we'll do testing in a second, but even a variant that has the range proficiency on it and particle amp, which is kind of like long barrel on the energy weapons, doesn't seem to help very much. The range is still pretty terrible. So I did a lot of testing to get these ranges right, and I'm not going to go through all of it, but this is the exact maximum one burst kill range, not super far away for an assault rifle. When you're running the same assault rifle with particle amp, you get a little bit of extra range. That's the 3-shot kill range. And if you're running a variant that has increased range and particle amp, this is the 3-shot kill range, which I honestly couldn't tell apart from the other one, and it's not very impressive. There's not a lot of times you're going to be getting one burst kills unless you're relatively close to the enemy, and this isn't the close range kind of weapon. The rate of fire of the burst is 900 rounds per minute, and the burst delay is 300 milliseconds. This is a little bit slow for burst fire weapons. Most of them tend to fire around 1200 or 1000, and the burst delay is more significant than I expected at 300 milliseconds. This was hand tested just to make sure that it lines up properly. So it fires kind of slow. What this means is your theoretical close range time to kill is actually very fast. If you're inside that 3-shot range and you land all 3 of your shots, you're getting a lot of headshots, in theory, in mathematical principle, you can drop people incredibly quickly. However, your real life time to kill is often going to be quite slow because you're rarely going to be inside the one burst range, and you're rarely going to hit all 3 shots, and if you miss one, the follow-up is slow. So maybe if you've got scumpy aim and you never miss and you can just nail them with all 3 of the bursts and always get headshots, it'll be great, but most of the time it won't be. The R3K has moderate recoil. Most of these burst fire weapons don't kick at all. This one actually does kick a little bit, but it's mostly vertical, and this actually works in your favor for getting headshots. It's very easy to kind of aim at nipples, and it'll kick up and hit neck and head on your way up very, very consistently, so I wouldn't worry about it too much. I typically wouldn't use a foregrip or any sort of accuracy type proficiency on the weapon. Gun perk is the right word there. The iron sights are clean and usable, but they're somewhat vertically obstructive. I can aim with these, I can pick people off with these, but the obstruction is completely on the y-axis, so if it kicks up too much, I do have a tendency to lose the target. I very much so prefer optics of any kind. Kind of like the NV4, the R3K has a slightly faster than average aim down sights time of 250 milliseconds, and I mean that in that it's slightly faster than average both for this game and for Call of Duty in general, so you can snap aim people pretty well with the weapon. The Hipfire, unfortunately, is terrible, mostly because it's a burst weapon. Mathematically speaking, the Hipfire is about the same as all of the other assault rifles, nothing really special about it, but because it's a burst fire weapon and you can only fire 3 shots at a time, and then there's a delay and a follow-up, and I'm I'm sure that most of you have tried hip firing with burst weapons before. It's not very fun, and it's not something that I would really recommend unless you're completely desperate. And due to the rate of fire and the downtime and the relatively small amount of shots that it often takes to kill, the fusion mag isn't needed. I run fusion mag on most of my energy weapons because I like it to be recharging faster. However, I found that I didn't need it at all on the R3K. So, unfortunately, I can't really recommend this gun for hardly any situation except for perhaps hardcore, because the R3K is kind of a bad gun. It could definitely be useful in hardcore because it can one-shot people anywhere on the map. Even the minimum damage should still one-shot people, but the time to kill is kind of slow, the range isn't great, the accuracy doesn't make up for it. I can't recommend the R3K over any other assault rifle or SMG, and in my personal opinion, I would recommend that you don't use it. And please take this with a grain of salt. This is an opinion, but it's an opinion from a guy that uses every single gun in the game and often does quite well with what we would traditionally call bad guns. I'm never going to deploy with this weapon again after this in-depth episode. The best loadout for it is optics of any kind. I prefer the VMC, but you run whatever makes you happy. Stock, so you can do a little bit of that left stick aiming, you get a little bit more ability, and the Faraday slug is going to increase your headshot lethality, and for a weapon that already has headshot multipliers, and you're kind of already going for headshots anyway, this just adds some bonus to that, so maybe you can drop people a little bit faster. At the end of the episode, I'll talk about the epic variant, the R3KT, or the Rect. It fires much slower than a normal assault rifle. However, it has pretty awesome range, and the recoil's not too bad. I had to look up some YouTube videos of it to see how it performed and see if it matched my stat sheets, but it fires at about 400 rounds per minute, fully automatic, and deals the same damage. When it comes down to it mathematically, it's kind of like a worse Volk. It's kind of worse than the Volk in every way, except that it doesn't kick very much. So maybe if you want a slightly more accurate but underperforming Volk, you can go with the R3K T or Rect Epic variant. Guys, that's all for this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something useful. If you did, don't forget to like, favorite, and subscribe. Drifter out.